Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to our Outbound 2.0 session. This is a part of our Common Room Go-to-Market Mavericks series, and we are joined today by the great Monica McIlroy. Monica, welcome to the party.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here. I think what you guys are building is really cool.
Yeah, well, we think what you're doing is equally cool because what we're building doesn't mean a lot without practitioners like you out there thinking through this new way of connecting with customers. And everybody, that is what we will be talking about today. This modern world of engaging customers, maybe in new and different ways. It's really hard to stand out, especially just repeating kind of typical techniques that are down to a science. And so I'm really excited to hear some of Monica's fresh perspectives on things that she's seen work for her clients. So we'll talk about social selling. We'll talk about some community-driven engagement and growth, and we'll have a little fun in the process. By the way, if you're here, we do have an open chat, so fling some questions in there. I'll be monitoring them. I will politely interrupt Monica and ask your questions as they seem relevant. Monica, where are you calling in from today? By the way, I am in the Boston area. If you're in the chat, go ahead and let us know where you're calling in from. But Monica, where are you joining us from?
I'm from Toronto. I'm Canadiana queen.
There we go. We can now call the show international. We have a Canadian, North American international at least. So lovely.
Yeah, so a little bit of diversity in there.
Awesome. We got some folks from the West Coast. That's awesome. San Francisco, represent. Very good. Scranton, Pennsylvania. All right, we all know. Okay, I mean, of course, like the obvious question is like, how close do you live to the Dunder Mifflin office? Fort Collins, Colorado. Great. We got folks from all over this great nation and the one directly north of us. Chris, the session will be recorded, and we will send that recording out after the session. Thank you, everybody, for letting us know where you're coming from. We'll have a little fun today. Monica, I know you have a couple things prepared for us. I'm really excited to see what you have. I guess for now, I'll pass it over to you. I may interrupt with some questions throughout the process, but let's give the people what they came for you.
Okay, awesome. Sounds good. So in a couple moments, I am going to share a PowerPoint presentation on what I like to call social selling for dummies. And it also has a lot of community-led selling, community marketing aspects to it as well. I don't know exactly what the term is. I always call it a bunch of quirky different things. But I think with social selling or community-led outreach, the two really most important things are optimizing your LinkedIn profile and then networking and building relationships in the communities that your prospects are hanging out in. So my presentation will go over those two things on kind of like optimizing your profile and just how to get started with networking with your ICP, which is what we came to learn a little bit more about. So I am going to share my screen. Social selling for dummies. Oops, I'm not. There we go. So I'll put it on slideshow. Can you just say thumbs up if everybody can see this, or can you just let me know like we're all good?
I can see it. Anybody in the chat want to give us? Oh, we got all kinds of emojis popping up on the screen. I think that's a good sign. I think we're ready to rock.
That's a good indicator. Okay, awesome. So two channels I use, again, it depends on the ICP, but that I really love are LinkedIn and Twitter. So I'll talk a lot about these channels, and I'll dive into a couple more as well a little bit later on into the presentation. So a good quote from the book Atomic Habits that is near and dear to me is that community-led selling or social selling is not like a 0 to 100 or to 1,000 in one day. It's these incremental, like micro, small interactions with prospects, you starting to post content and optimizing your LinkedIn profile a little bit every day is what is going to help you improve. Don't think it has to be a huge rehaul or something big that's going to happen in a day or even in a week. I just crossed 10,000 followers on LinkedIn a week or two ago, and I've been on LinkedIn really actively networking for probably 4 or 5 years. So it's a journey. We just got to be patient. So, like the whole thing about community marketing is building your social like equity, and networking is the difference between having jobs or prospects come to you versus you having to go out to them. So by posting content and optimizing your profiles, you're going to start to generate inbound for yourself. And I have an example here on the right-hand side of somebody who actually came inbound to me after doing some community marketing or networking stuff on Twitter when one of my ICPs was really active on Twitter. I'm going to go through this presentation pretty quickly. So there's a lot of slides. So some of them I'll jump over faster and some I won't. I'll spend a little bit more time on. I'll also send this presentation out to the attendees that want this presentation after I'm done it. So no worries. I'll send it to you later on. So a big thing is kind of like developing a little persona or something that makes you unique or personable in your profile. So whether it's on your Twitter or LinkedIn, I started with all of my posts recently. I love matcha. My name's Monica. It's like the Monica matcha thing. And all of my posts pretty much have a matcha cup in it. So it's a way to like stand out and kind of develop a unique identity amongst the crowd where everybody can be the same. So coming up with something like that for yourself will really like help you stand out in like very crowded places like Twitter and LinkedIn. Sharing stuff about my personal life, sharing some wedding pictures from when I got married back in the day. I really like to share like both the professional and personal aspects of me because people want to network and work with people that they know, like, and trust. And when you have a good mix of personal and professional, it just kind of creates those real bonds with your prospects or even people. Like if you're trying to apply for a job, same kind of thing applies. So showing your real
Monica, I gotta interject. I was reading a blog yesterday that said I should use ChatGPT to create all of my content on LinkedIn and Twitter. Are you saying that maybe like having a robot facade as yourself isn't the best way to connect with other human beings? Is that what you're saying here?
Yeah, exactly. No, I couldn't agree more. I think that ChatGPT has a long way to go in understanding my kind of like quirky and unique way to communicate. I think that the way ChatGPT writes is still super bland, and I'm sure that there'll be a lot of progress as ChatGPT develops and evolves. But I think that everyone has a unique voice, has personal things to share, has things about them that they like just like the matcha thing as an example. And I think that we can't solely rely on a robot to develop and
I think
maintain our personal brand.
and people like it's fun to see other people having fun, right? It's just like
Yeah,
so. I love the matcha thing. Like I went on like a Monica LinkedIn deep dive a couple days ago to kind of. It's just like it's so like it's so obvious, and I bet you pick up folks from those more personal posts that then start interacting with your like more business centric content as well. So anyway, very
no,
cool.
exactly. I can interact with you in a business way if you're likable and unique and interesting in a personal way, right? I have people DM me all the time asking me to like how to make matcha. I even have a video on how to make it if you want to make a proper matcha latte, so I can send that to you too. But like you develop those real relationships when you're talking about personal things and not just business things. But I'm just going to go into the next slide. So showing you're well connected and commenting is super important even before you start posting. When you comment on other people's posts, it really boosts the algorithm on LinkedIn and promotes your posts when you're really interacting with other people's posts as well. Having an informative and engaging bio is really important. Here are a couple of them. And having some really cool featured posts, especially some like posts that have made you go viral, are awesome to put in your featured section. Another thing too is Sergio is somebody that I used to manage a couple employers ago. So this is when he was working at Athenian. There's a bright, like happy picture of him smiling, good information on what the company does, how he helps companies automate workflows for ownership, governance, tax, and compliance. And it's just like a very warm and approachable profile to want to interact with. And then he has a good little explanation of what the organization does. Licenses and certifications, especially in the niche of the, like for your prospects, certifications that would be important to them. If you've shown that you've gotten those certifications, that'll really stand out to your prospects as well. taking courses either in sales, marketing, or in things again that are specific to your ICP. Certificates. And another really big thing or way to stand out with your prospects and just in general on LinkedIn, and I really speak to this, and I think it's is the LinkedIn testimonial section. So every time I'm at an employer, I want to do such a good job there that I feel super comfortable to ask 2, 3, or 4 people from where I've worked to give me a recommendation. I think it speaks to the kind of employee I am, what kind of work I do, what kind of work I do for my clients, etc. And it'll stand out to your prospects as well, just kind of like enforces that you're a professional and just that you do your job well. So I have a ton of these. I think a lot of these people have become synonymous with their brands, and it's what we're trying to accomplish. So when you think of Sarah Brazier, for example, you're always going to think of Gong, and that's kind of what we are aiming to do or striving towards. So now I'll get a little bit into the community piece. So finding your prospects is communities. Different niches obviously have different communities. So they have, like, again, there's different communities for if you're selling into HR and recruiting. There's different ones if you're selling into marketing and sales. This slide is definitely a little bit outdated because Revenue Collective is now called Pavilion since quite a while ago. So I definitely have to update this slide. If you're prospecting to developers, here are a couple cool communities where you can interact with developers. Then there's also niche communities for marketers who are, let's say, marketing to developers, like Slack communities. So I've also done a lot of prospecting in Slack communities. So it's for e-commerce marketers, for marketers marketing to developers, and just kind of like niches within another niche, right? So that's like another way to get involved. And then geographical communities is another great way that you can engage with your prospects. So I used to prospect to robotics engineers. They're a big robotics hub in Germany and Austria. So Zing is basically the DACH region's version of LinkedIn. So I used to book a lot of meetings through Zing because that's where a lot of German and Austrian robotics engineers used to hang out. So I'm just going through these. These are examples when I used to prospect into developer marketing or developer evangelism. So it's basically marketers trying to market to developers. This ICP was really on Twitter. So I was interacting with them a lot there. A lot of times when you're really heavily interacting with your prospects in their communities, the name repetition of your name and your company's name really starts to kind of like build up in their mind. And we're really building that brand awareness as well. And then that also leads them to open up more of your emails too, which you can see here. I kind of had a lot of back and forth with this gentleman, and then it led to just a lot of engagement on the email side as well. How I like to interact with my prospects is having the, pardon my French, just kind of having the shoot the shit vibe with them, where I'm like joking around, just kind of like treating them like I'm really trying to become friends with them. So I have a bit of a last minute Larry personality. So I was just joking with this guy for a 7 a.m. call. When do you get out of bed? And then I responded saying 6:48 gives you enough time to go to the washroom, make a call, and you're good to go. So that's like one type of exchange. And then I also
it's great when you start the meeting uncaffeinated, and then by the end of the meeting you're fully caffeinated and ready to rock. There's like a nice arc of a meeting when you roll into it that way.
Yeah.
Hey, I gotta get a question on this, because this comes up like a lot of communities. Like, I think social makes a lot of sense in the context of like finding your prospects communities. Some communities are fairly, like, I guess, restrictive about like maybe pitching or talking to being too salesy, I guess, in a community channel. It seems like your approach is it just feels so organic. So it'd be nice to kind of double click on that a little bit, I think, because it seems like you're getting results without having to pitch, but more just like relating with your ideal persona,
Yeah. Exactly. So I have the shoot the shit aspect is one of my aspects of how I interact with people. I also like to post things that's also shown in this slide that are valuable and relatable. So if I'm prospecting to product marketers, I'll say these are 3 things that product marketers struggle with on a daily basis. You build up some connection with them, and then they start liking your tweets and then sharing podcasts that they might find helpful. So I really believe that community-led selling or social selling is really a long game. And there's so much nuance to building these relationships. And I think that once you've had enough back and forth where you're just kind of being funny and becoming friends with them, you're sharing things that are relatable, you're sharing things that are valuable, I think that they can respect that you as a salesperson at the right time with all the nuance that's kind of gone on in building that relationship, that you will transition and say, hey, like, it's been really great getting to know you. It's like, just based on our conversations, it seems like you guys are really stretched for like technical content, for example. We help like software companies like yours create technical content. So if you're ever stretched internally and need some external help, then it's kind of a natural way for the relationship to progress, like past the friendship and like introduce the pitch. And they can respect that because you've like taken so much effort to get to know them and become them. Yeah, so these are a bunch of just interactions with my prospects of, yeah, just social selling interaction. So, again, this was a guy who had 46,000 followers. He was in developer relations, and he messaged me saying, hey, Monica, your name is constantly coming up on my feed, and I see you in my email, I see you on LinkedIn, I see you on Twitter. It would be really good to have a chat with you. So when you're like interacting in this very like organic, friendly way, it gets your prospects to come to you without you having to actually even directly do outbound to them. And it starts those conversations. Another really big thing that I find important, sorry, I'm just going to finish this one point, is time from like, if you're prospecting, you're talking to someone on one community in LinkedIn, I really like to remind prospects, oh, hey, I saw that thing that you posted on Twitter, or I noticed on your YouTube channel that you mentioned this. And it shows that you're really trying to get to know them on multiple platforms, and not that they're just part of like a mass spray and pray through like an outreach sequence, but it's like you're paying attention to them on multiple channels, and you're really trying to like authentically get to know them and build a relationship with them. Sorry, what were you going to say?
Oh no, it's great. There's a question in the chat, but before that, it's like it's almost like I've had instances where like engaging in like more casually with folks, whether it's on social or channels, like the pitch, it's created this interesting dynamic where I've had customers recently actually come to me and say like, hey, like I would love to see your product. Like it flips it upside down where like the customer can feel comfortable and like, hey, can we set up like, I kind of need to know more about what you do. We have a project coming up. Can I get a demo? And it's just like, it makes for a really fun interaction, but also really cool. You can be really, I guess what's the word? You can be very transparent with customers like that when you connect that way and get business done quickly. So Chris Brooks.
Yeah, and there's just like,
oh, please go ahead, Monica. Sorry. No.
I was just going to say there's a lot of satisfaction as well to like feeling like you're doing such a good job by like very organically and naturally interacting with prospects, and then they start coming to you, and like that was your agenda all along, but you kind of led them to take that step towards you. And that's just like really satisfying as like a business development person as well, is that you didn't have to like in a slimy way aggressively push them or trick them into talking to you. You did such a good job putting yourself out there that they organically come to you. And it's just like, it's also really satisfying and just feels a lot less slimy too.
Yeah. Chris Brooks in the chat has a really great question, because I think this is something that is probably relevant to any like SDR or AE that's selling into like a very technical ideal persona. He says, very technical ICP. And he's wondering, should his profile like maybe reflect that ICP? Like should he adjust his profile to maybe resonate more with the technical persona? I'm kind of curious what you think about. I have my opinions, but I'm curious what you think about that, Monica.
In terms of modifying the profile so that it makes it more desirable for the technical persona to want to interact with you, is that basically the question?
I think so. Like, imagine you're a non-technical seller, but yeah, he
Yeah.
confirmed that's the
Yeah.
question. Yep.
Yeah. Um, yeah, so like I would say totally yes. So when I was prospecting to these developer advocates, it's a super technical persona. It's basically engineer. It's a community marketing, and it's hard for you to do that. You relate to the engine. So when I was in but in you have to run prospect surprisingly active on Twitter, on Discord, and all Mastodon. There's a couple people because of a variety of different reasons aren't on Twitter anymore. So there's kind of like new community branching out in like Twitter imitation software.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get too much. So I wrote my profile that I wrote DA and I put an avocado. So I spent so much time in this community that I realized these developer advocates would put avocados in their emoji, and it was kind of like a way for them to communicate that they were also developer advocates, and it was kind of this little joke that they were developer avocados. And so in a way it feels like you're kind of tricking them to like meet with you, like by pretending that you're more technical than you are. But I think that with that really technical persona, they're very weary of salespeople. And I think as much as possible, you should try to learn about the technology that you're selling. And you should like get like, again, I'm not a technical person, but I learned so much about like Kubernetes, about APIs, about all this like very technical stuff. And then I did kind of create a profile that made me appear maybe a little bit more technical than I was, because I wanted to create those relationships, those super technical engineers, those developers.
I've seen like one thing I've seen work really well is like, because like it's a fine line of like wanting to appear more technical, but also like wanting to remain like authentic and like setting the right expectation with customers. And one area I've really seen like where sellers that are trying to take this approach that of connecting with the technical persona is like, you maybe, yeah, of course, strive to understand the technology. Absolutely. Right. But one thing that I've seen work well for my peers is actually like, instead of focusing on the tech, like focusing on the pain that the tech solves for the technical persona. Right. Cause like, yeah, if you're non-technical, it's going to be hard to like vibe with an engineer about like a deep technical topic. But if you have a good sense of the pain or the problem that your solution solves for a user, for an engineer, for a practitioner, you can scream that from the rooftops. And they tend to be pretty down with and like that like sense of like, oh, this is a salesperson, sure, but they understand like my day-to-day. They understand the pain that I am experiencing. So anyway, just a thought.
Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. That's great. I totally get that. I feel like I've prospected to pretty technical ICPs at a couple of different organizations, and I think that's another thing that can like set you apart with technical people is if you don't want to revamp your profile for it to be super technical, you understanding their pain points, trying to like again post things that are relatable, like I was talking about, things that are valuable based on your like limited understanding, and then also just like shooting the shit, developing your personality and like being silly and trying to create personal relationships. I think that like a couple of times when I was prospecting these developer advocates, I'd get on the phone with them and they said like it was so admirable how much you learned like about the persona, about what developer advocates go through, how it's hard to come up with like the technical documentation. And like even though it was kind of a trick that I was being technical than how I present, or sorry, I was less technical than how I was presenting myself. They appreciated the determination to kind of get into their world and become one of them, even though I would never really become one of them. So yeah, that's just what I would say. I think I have a couple more slides, but I honestly feel like shared so far like really illustrates my point. To bring it all back together, I think like communities are just data or gifts. There can be like different communities depending on e-commerce. There's e-commerce marketer relationships or marketers like marketing in healthcare or to developers and kind of those more niche things. There can be communities. And then I think like one really big thing that I want to stress is having 2 or 3 or 4 possibly channels of like ways or communities to interact with your prospects, so that like I really didn't want to be an avatar to people solely on Twitter. I wanted to be an avatar to them where I was subscribed to their YouTube channel, because like this ICP, for example, made a lot of YouTube videos. I talked to them into their like developer Slack community. I talked to them on Twitter. They saw my name on LinkedIn. They saw my name emailing them all the time. And then once in a while I would call them. And just that name repetition of me and my organization really, it just like got stuck in a lot of people's heads, which is why I created a lot of these great relationships. The other thing that I wanted to share, which was kind of funny, and it got quite a few likes, like considering it was Twitter. So when I was leaving this organization in particular, this guy tweeted saying 2 people from the same company with the same name followed me recently, and it threw me off because I hired an SDR as I was leaving, who was all Monica. So basically, people start to notice these things, right? And that if I'm searching something on and search for a keyword, I was so closer, was paying their things so tight. There's no way so much that I noticed this, and there'd be no way to audit. So to make me like pulling out this tweet. It's like I was so in the community, I was noticing all these small things, and all those small interaction, little bibbity bops like that to add up. It's awesome. Remember that, but I think that's where I want to end off in terms of my presentation here. Stopping.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you, Monica. And by the way, I don't just towards the end there, you were kind of cutting in and out a little bit. I don't know if how close you are to your router or anything like that, but it's just kind of a little choppy at the end. But thank you. I think
it's right here, so I don't know. Maybe.
Oh, interesting. Well, who knows? The internet is a funny thing. So awesome. Yeah. I think that's a great, like, I think that was a really helpful kind of perspective on like, what I really appreciate about it is like very tactical, right? Like, I think a lot of people talk about these things in like a lofty way, but you get straight to the point of like, no, here are specific tactics and channels to engage with. I loved the screenshots of the interactions with your prospects too. Well, everybody, if you're still hanging around in the chat, now would be the time of this gathering where if you have questions to ask, we'd love to hear them. I have a few questions I'd like to lob out that came on that, crossed my mind during that presentation, but feel free to use that chat function and let us know if you have any other questions. One thing I'm curious to pick your brain on is like, like who, I guess, do you feel like this is something, because I could see this, like what you're describing working, of course, for like SDRs and BD type roles, but also for like AEs and SEs and really anybody that's in a like customer facing sales type of role. Like, I guess when it comes to like driving an outbound strategy, like where do you feel like community or marketing or sales like fit into this puzzle, or maybe this is just as simple as like, this is a very individual strategy, but I'm trying to think of how you plug it into your company's go-to-market engine.
Yeah, so I have a pretty strong belief that BDRs should report into marketing and that they should work really closely with community marketers. I think a lot of times people skip all of this rapport building and all of this back and forth and are too aggressive with booking meetings, that they skip all the rapport building and then they just annoy people, and then the relationship is burned and kind of go anyway. The relationship goes to hell. There is no relationship because you are too like just aggressive and pushy in your outreach. So I actually made a post on LinkedIn a couple days ago. Basically, I think BDR should be comped on meaningful interactions with their prospects, because only such a small percentage of prospects are in a buying motion at any given time. And I think the way that current like comp models are created just do a disservice to like so many software companies because they're being too pushy. And then because SDRs are trying to get those 2 more meetings to end the month off, then from like June 24th to the 30th, they're being all like chaotic and aggressive and a little bit unhinged and insane in order to make their number. And I just think that does more harm than good. So I think that's what I would say to that.
Well, we are coming up on the end of the month, so this is a good time for you to check your spam folder to see if anybody has been using that kind of traditional strategy there, trying to get to their meetings booked number for the month. That's. I mean, okay, so I guess you started to touch on it. The other thing that I'm really curious of is like how do you measure these sort of like prospects that are sourced via this method? Like I could see like maybe there's like a field on an opportunity that you tag of like how it's sourced, but I'm really curious how you like, obviously there's like, it works because you're seeing it happen and you're hitting your goals because of it. But how do you measure that within the context of like a sales organization?
So a thing that I do when I've led SDR teams is doing little what I like to call bumps at the end of every week. So I do and shots where BDRs are presentation of all the like it'll be a presentation similar. Can you still through email meaningful through? You'll hear me?
Awesome. Yeah, I think you're cutting out
endings that they book.
Cutting out a little bit there, Monica. So I think the audience is having some challenges hearing you there, but I think by and large this has been a super interesting discussion. I think folks, I guess I'll do one last call for questions, and while we're waiting for those questions to trickle in, Monica, I'll do one last stand for you. I guess this is a time for you to plug anything you want or anything you didn't say that you want to say. I guess now is the time, but I just want to thank you again for joining us and give you one last word before we wrap it up.
Okay, I'll try to finish the thought that I was finishing before. So I think in these Bragathon end of the week presentations, you can really start to see which channels are generating the most like meetings and meaningful interactions for our SDRs. And then I also, in opportunity fields when they're created, I'll have fields of like, do you think that this meeting was booked 75% through Twitter and then kind of 25% through LinkedIn? So I think that the opportunity sources or channels are very static, and I've started to implement something like, what is the combination of channels do you think like led to this opportunity? So I think that's something that I really implement. As my closing note, I really apologize for these connectivity issues. Occasionally they happen where my once a month my internet is kind of iffy. But I would really love to connect with anybody who wants to connect with me. And if you have any more one-on-one questions on how to like implement community like led outreach or social selling for yourself, I'd love to have a one-on-one with you and chat with you a little bit more about it. It's my bread and butter. I have a lot more examples where that came from. I just shared a few examples in this presentation, but happy to go a lot deeper. And thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Monica. It's maybe the pattern is at the end of the month, there's too many SDRs sending cold emails in your inbox. They're taking up all your bandwidth. Maybe that's the theory I'll operate off of. But Monica, thank you so much for the time and energy you put into the presentation here. I thought it was great. Thank you to the audience for rocking with us. We will follow up with the presentation and recording after the call. And Monica, thank you again.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
All right. Bye, everybody.